on Star 103.5 FM. Thank you for joining us as well.
Thank you. And I'm sure between the two of us, there's no interaction, is there?
No, not at all. But also, just like I asked him, how does it feel answering the questions?
Well, it's different. So let's see how it goes for today.
I never like it. I never like being on the other side. It's not pleasant. Okay. Anyway, so just like everyone is talking about today, World Press Freedom Day, for you, as people who sit on the airwaves every morning trying to disseminate information and also get information from officials, authorities, what does it mean for you when anybody says to you, Happy World Press Freedom Day to you as Bernard?
So I'll answer this in two ways. So, you know, when we say press, many years ago, it was just newspapers. So the fact that a radio journalist is on TV discussing press in itself is interesting. So that you could easily have even brought an online editor on World Press Freedom Day. That tells you that the profession and the channels in which people communicate has changed fundamentally, which is very interesting and exciting. So that's on the level of how media is changing. The other issue is for a Ghanaian young to be on air speaking freely in a country that not too long ago was under military rule. That is also progress. So I'm grateful that I was born in a time where I can go on air and express myself, I can blog, I can write, and I can come on TV and share my views without being afraid that when I leave this place, somebody will arrest me. So that's my opening. I think it's fantastic that we are alive at a time like this.
Okay, Francis?
I think it's more of a period to reflect and get to see what we've all done with the opportunity we have been given. Unlike the two of you, I'm relatively younger in this business than both of you are. But this morning when I was on the show, many of the questions that I asked related more on where we've come from as a country, what we've learned from our period, and what we can do going forward. If you speak to those who've been in this business for over 40 years, they tell you about the very difficult times of reporting simple information and the kind of political time they were in, the difficulties they went through. So I see this period as a time to be happy of where we've come from, where we are today, the opportunities that are bound for media practitioners to serve the Ghanaian people on a daily basis, and especially for what we do in the morning, helping people to understand what is happening in this country, basically.
So is it safe for anyone to conclude that from listening to you, the media in Ghana is absolutely free?
I will not call it 100%.
What are the inhibitions?
There's a lot of room for improvement. There are a lot of things to do with, first, the ability to get information, the right to information. We've been talking about it for a long time.
The bill is in its 9th year?
Yes, and our very good parliament for a very long time, well over 10 years, has still not done all of us a good favor by passing that law. I don't know what the hesitation is. Some say it's political, some say it's the fear of the unknown. But I think that is one thing that, for many of us as media practitioners, we look at it and say, this has to change. Again, you think about people's perception about the media and the way they treat what we do. It's also difficult, especially for those who have things to hide, who are doing things which they know are not right, and will not be in the best of positions to share that information with us. It makes it difficult to appreciate how free we can be and what we can do. But again, I think of it with respect to what is happening globally. If you look at the numbers, we are 26 in the world. You look at countries above us, and it's interesting. There's Denmark, there's Norway, there's Sweden. Countries like UK are number 40. That means that there is some measure of progress for us. In the last 25 years that we have been a fourth republic, we have been doing some work going forward. Yes, we have made our own mistakes, but I think there's still a lot of room for us to grow and be better.
Okay. Bernard, absolutely free?
I like the question because when you say free, what does it mean? It means you can practice the profession without let or hindrance. The hindrances to press freedom is not just the fact that you are afraid to say what you have to say, but you must look at the structure of media, the economics of media. So for example, you could have the freedom to say everything you wanted, but there'll be no private media because the economics doesn't work. So is the press free? Or you could be free, you could have all the money, but nobody believes you. So I think that we should be a bit more deeper in analyzing press freedom. I'm simply saying, can people practice without being arrested? That's fundamental. And on that, so if I restricted my answer to just whether freedom as in how we know it, obviously we can't be absolutely free. But I think that if we look at it from a deeper perspective, we have a lot of challenges we have to deal with. So as he said, in reflecting on press freedom, generally you think that the freer a press is, the more open the society. And the more open the society is, the more responsive the government. So the better they are governed, right? Now look at Ghana. We are number 2 in Africa for press freedom. For many years we are number 1. Can you say that the quality of governance in Ghana is number 1? So that truly free press catalyzes better governance by making governments more accountable, citizens more responsive and more educated. So if we are not just looking at the input of being free, but the output of what press freedom must give. If you look at it that way, we have a long way to go. Because Ghana is a very curious case of having a lot of airtime, 400 radio stations, lots of newspapers, lots of TV stations, which is open, but that openness does not translate into accountability of government and responsiveness of citizens. So I feel we have to learn the lesson to transition between having the freedom to say what you want to say versus doing a quality work that compels duty bearers to respond to what people actually need. So that the media itself must become more responsive to what people want. So you don't go on air and decide to discuss what you feel, but it's a demand-driven. So for example, this morning, both of us discussed traffic. Because in the night, people who are on the Tema Motorway called us. So we're doing responsive journalism. And I think that's where the media is headed to. So you don't just get up and say, I just want to discuss this.
What if they're going with the agenda-setting role of the media?
It's fine, but your agenda must be set within a context. A context of what is relevant, what is important. So sometimes you look at what people want, but other times you look at your privileged position. So because we are media and we have access to power, we go to parliament, we go to the executive, we then decide that this issue is important. And when we come to Galamsey, I'll talk about that. So to answer your simple question in a very complicated way, Ghanaian media is free, but a freedom that is not being used to achieve the objectives of freedom is not true freedom.
Okay. You'd want to talk about the RTI quickly before I move
Yeah,
on.
so I think that the RTI is an important piece of legislation, as is the broadcasting law. And I think the fact that it's taking so long tells you the mindset of our political elite. They are very apprehensive about what the RTI will be used for. But I think that shouldn't be a hindrance to media's practice of their work, because our job fundamentally is to give people the best obtainable version of the truth. And I'm quoting Carl Bernstein, one of the 2 journalists who did the Watergate scandal. What it means is that it's not an exact science. So even if they decide not to give us RTI, if you look at the way we've tackled an issue like Galamsey, issues have many, many levels. If our objective is to give our audiences the best obtainable version of the truth, with or without RTI, we can do that. RTI will help it make it easier and make it more formalized. But sometimes the greater the barrier, the better you practice. I know journalists who work in places like Afghanistan and Mexico who are fantastic in the stories they do. In Mexico, reporting on the drug cartels can be very dangerous. But there's the ingenuity. So I feel that Ghanaian media has to tell, we have a lot of advantages. So if they like, they shouldn't pass the RTI. We'll still do our work. But we think that it will be better if they passed it, because obviously it makes the process easier. But if they don't pass it, we need to improve the way we work so we can get better outcomes.
Okay. He brought up the issue of Galamsey, and for the first time in this country, we are seeing the media come together. I mean, there's even a coalition. We are seeing the media drive an agenda, talking about Galamsey and the devastation it has brought onto households and families. I mean, it's unprecedented, to borrow the words of the NDC. Very unprecedented. Now, do you feel that it has come in too late? Is this something the media should have come together to talk about maybe 5 years ago, and on other issues? For instance, corruption. Sometimes you find media houses keeping information to themselves because we did this expose, so we are keeping every bit of it to ourselves. How do we fight together to achieve a cause? Because if you look at the theme for this year, we're using the media to fight for inclusiveness, for society, to be responsive. Okay,
but again, if you look at the Galamsey example, to look at the whole issue of how we can come together and fight a common cause, I think it's more to do with how we have grown, the individualistic mindset that we've had in trying to win, get the numbers, lead the pack, be the one to go to for information. But I think over the years, especially with Galamsey, we've all come to realize that the problem has now gotten to a stage where it's mission critical. So everybody needs to get his hands on it. But it also gives us a certain understanding that if we put our minds to things that are problems in our society, which people expect us to talk about and find solutions to, if we put our hands together and say we'll fight to win, we can. But you look at the play we have. There's state media, there's private media. In private media, there's competition. You're fighting for revenue. You're fighting for audience share. You're fighting for who will listen to you a bit more. How can you ramp up your numbers to lead the pack?
Right.
That is where the fine mix begins to creep up. But if we all agree that problems in our society are ours collectively, and we need to fight it as a common front, I guess that is how we can go with this one.
Bernard.
You know, let me use a very interesting biblical. So Paul said, some preach Christ out of
Bernard
genuine...
is a pastor, by the way.
I'm not.
Yes.
I'm not. Some preach Christ out of genuine intention,
Yeah.
and some preach Christ to spite me. But whatever happens, Christ is preached. And I think that's the way we should see this Galamsey thing. So some people jumped on it later because they realized that it was a good story. Some people have been doing it for a long time and they've persisted at it. Whichever way it is, it's very good that it's an organic coalition of media. Right. It's fantastic. It tells you the Ghanaian media is maturing. We are understanding issues deeper because yes, you must make profit. Yes, you must be the number one clicked website. But if people don't believe in the power of media to change, all of our work could be useless. So even though some could be enlightened self-interest, the point is that the media has realized that Galamsey is so serious. And again, the more competitive media becomes, the more media has to do real stories. So you have to go out there, go to the Ankroba, go to the Pra. No self-respecting media person who sees the devastation of Galamsey can say that they will not jump in. Right. It's such a big story. It has so many levels. Nana, you could do just the health effects of Galamsey, the effects on cocoa, the effects of the chemicals in plants, the effects on young people leaving school to do Galamsey, the role of chiefs, the role of politicians. Is a multi-layered issue. And I feel the Galamsey coalition that we've seen is a good example of where the media is going in Ghana, where increasingly complex issues which have various sides, we can come in from different angles. So I think it's a very positive thing that has happened, and it's a sign of the maturity of the Ghanaian media. And I think we shouldn't let the lesson be lost on us. It's a fantastic thing that's happening.
Okay, now I want to move away from the impact the media is making and focus on the personnel, the journalists themselves, because on a day like this, when everyone is touting the good works of the media and how happy we are that we're enjoying press freedom, you ask yourself, are journalists really happy? It comes to the issue of remuneration for journalists. They are one of the least paid professionals in this country. The average journalist in Ghana is probably taking home 800 Ghana cedis or 500 Ghana cedis or some ridiculous amount of money. How do media owners come in here as we mark this day?
Bernard, you want to start with this?
Yeah, so for every industry, for an industry to survive and thrive, you must look at a couple of things. You must look at policy. You must look at economics, okay, and then you must look at new ideas, academics. So the media industry, on the policy side, government can set up regulations, NMC, GIBA, broadcasting law. The policy sets the framework and is the basis. Then there's the economics, the marketing. So the market, right, so that demand versus supply. You have 300 radio stations. Can they get enough adverts? Can somebody who starts GH1 and all the radio stations, can they succeed in terms of creating a proper business?
Right.
And then, of course, there is the academic research to improve the practice of the people teaching and training. So those are the three dimensions. Now, I'm answering your question. To answer your question, you must look at the economics of it primarily because it's an economics issue. You have lots of media outlets, but the space is very small. So Nigeria has over 150 million people. Ghana has the highest radio concentration in Africa. So you have over 400 radio licenses and over 380 radio stations operational commercially. That means that economics is not going to work. So if you want to fix media remuneration, it's not just a policy issue. It's not just a training issue. It's also an economics issue. So my point is that if you don't look at the economics of making media work, and of course, what brings economic problem. Regulation, where you have indiscriminate issuance of licenses and licenses being given to cronies, right? So you see how the policy side is linked to it. And then you have another side. So the education, the training. People come into the profession not because it's what they want to do, but because they feel this is the only thing I can do because I didn't get my preferred job. So in dealing with poor remuneration, get the economics right, get the policy right, but also the people in the profession have to start improving themselves. The training institutions must come on and say, you know what, like GIG, now they have a degree program. They're realizing that they have a master's program.
They have a master's,
Good. So they're saying that we are professionals and let's raise the bar. If the same level of scrutiny it takes to produce an engineer or a doctor were applied to training a journalist, they will attract more money. Do you understand me? I agree that journalism on its by definition is the kind of profession that anybody can practice. But if we professionalize our practice, we'll attract better remuneration. So I'm saying, number one, the marketing must work. The market must work. That's economics. Number two, the policy must work. And number three, the people in academia and the training must work for this issue of poor remuneration to be addressed.
Okay.
Francis.
I guess I'll pick the parts that relates directly to the skill set that people have as journalists and what they can do to get what they want. For many who begin journalism, which I did a number of years ago, I was told, based on the skill set you have, this is how much you'll be paid.
Right.
And when I ask people who have been in the business for a while, how come you earn this much? He says, well, I've been in the business for this number of years. I improved myself over this number of years. This is what I can do. If I'm asked in an interview, what can I do beyond just reporting stories? You will list the things that you can do. And based on that, you're paid. In other jurisdictions, they'll look at your qualification in terms of, do you have a degree? Do you have a master's degree? What are the things you can bring to bear beyond just saying that you can report a story? So I guess the starting point will be how people's minds are oriented to be journalists, even in the first place. And then what the plan is to add value. If you don't add value, trust me, there are people who go for programs and take the envelopes, 5-10 years down the line. And there are some I've met in my years of journalism who are taking the same envelope 5-10 years down the line. And there are many like them. It comes down to, before you wait for the system to work and get things right and ask for what you want, some have called for a union. I think it first begins with you as an individual, getting into this job to be a journalist. What do you want to do? 5 years from now, what do you want to see yourself? How do you prepare for that stage? How do you put yourself in the best position to get the best? Otherwise, we'll all be, as he said, in the same pool trying to get one same thing, and then the remuneration will
Yeah, but let me hasten to add that even though it's, all that we've said is true, we need leadership within the ownership of media to help to address this, right? So this afternoon, I was having a meeting with my news team, and I said to them, there are 6 skill sets a journalist must have. And in the past, people thought if you can talk well or you can read or you have a nice face, you can be a presenter. But what you're doing now, the things you're bringing together is not easily replicable. So my point is that the more media becomes complex, the more professionalized it becomes. So I'll give you 6. For example, you need to do you need interview skills, right? That could include presentation skills, right? You need to be able to read, a good memory. You need to know how to do articles, so writing features and documentaries. You need to be able to go and do a report on the street, piece it together into a story. You need to do infographics, right? Now, 20, 30 years ago, you didn't need all these skills, but now, so the more sophisticated media becomes, the more specialized and the more skillful people you need. The more skillful people you need, the more pay they attract, right? So we are not just DJs, or respect to DJs, we are not just talkers. We are into all kinds of things. Online journalism, data mining, and all those things. So my point is that as media becomes more sophisticated, it places a demand on what is needed. Very soon, people who go to engineering school, who go to law school, will come in and do what we are doing because we require those people. So part of it is the normal evolution of media, but then the leadership, where you are a news editor to say, you know what, I'm not going to have half-baked journalists. I don't want you to just come in and read the news and go home. You're going to go to Agbogbloshie, you're going to do a story. You're going to do an infographic of the latest issues. You're going to learn how to do online stories. Once you do that, you create more value and the market responds it with advert. Then we can pay you better. So the leadership of the media houses themselves must see this as their challenge in order for this matter to be addressed. Okay,
now you talk about leadership because I want to rope in the issue of ownership of the media. Now you look across the media landscape and you're just wondering, where did all the political interests come from? A lot of politicians are going into ownership of the media now. is that a threat?
You see, I think that in terms that we are very hard on ourselves in Ghana. It's true that political people own media.
Yeah.
But which other country is it not the same? The thing about media is that media is not like selling rice, where you can buy a bag of rice, sell it and add 10 Ghana cedis and make your profit. A lot of media owners are people who want influence. So look at Rupert Murdoch. For many years, they don't make profit, but Sky News persisted, right? BBC is a different model because it's a state broadcaster or public broadcaster with a different kind of funding model, lottery and everything. My point is that the ownership of media being political is a problem, but that should not prevent us from being professional if the people in the profession and those managing the media. So for example, a station is owned by a politician, but he can't run it. So the person running it is running a business.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, if the owner understands that this is a business, yes, I want to have influence, but if your business is not profitable, it will collapse. And if it's not influential and it's not listening to you, you have the influence. You get my point? So I still think media managers and media practitioners have a very big say in whether political ownership becomes detrimental or not. It does place some pressure on you in terms of some sort of self-censorship but frankly, the kind of lack of professionalism we see is not just political. It's true that in some radio stations, the political people own it and they force the agenda. But for predominant many media houses, it's more a question of the capacity of the media. So if you address the capacity issues, because in most spaces, they own media for a political advantage. Now, you can't shout about it. And the politicians, when they come to power, they give the radio stations to their friends. It's not going to change. So instead of complaining about it forever, find a way of getting... I don't think the owner of my station can come in and say, you know what, today when you're interviewing the Minister of Finance, don't ask him about this, okay? I beg, because he's my friend. Don't even think about it. Because I know my job and I'm doing it. If at best, if I do the interview and it offends his friend, say, Charlie, I'm sorry, my boys, I don't know what I can do. That's how it's supposed to be. So I feel we, the journalists and the people who run the media houses, we need to improve the knowledge base, the skill and the confidence of our people. Then the rest will follow.
Francis.
But again, Bernard, much as you make that point, you first ask yourself, who are the ones who are doing the job in the media in the first place? We can mention a few of them who are getting things done right. You can point to some of them. But for many, you look at the core of those who work there, people who are out of school, can't find a job, they go ask for it, they get it, they're in there, they're trying to find their way through. So the owner may have his agenda, but it's also down to the people who are asked to do the job and their ability to do it. So the capacity you speak of comes in. But again, how do we fix the people that move into the media space? And how do we address their capacity? It's okay for us to point to it, Bernard, but how do we realistically deal with it? Because not many media houses will say, I'm interested in improving the capacity of that person who sits in my newsroom and writes stories on a daily basis. All they care about is, you say you are a professional, you want a job, I've given you that job. Deliver, I want the numbers, I'm getting the numbers. And it ends there for many places.
You're right, but I feel that, you see, I don't believe in saying because I've been given a set of disadvantages, it ends there. My point is that the people who run the media houses, who are supposed to be media managers, a lot of these people are well traveled. They are people of means. All right. I'm saying that they must take part of the responsibility, and journalists must also take responsibility for building their own knowledge. I agree that media houses must sponsor they must train. And you see, because it's getting more competitive, if you don't do it, you become obsolete. So it's not just an appeal. If you like, don't train your media house. Don't send them on courses. Don't let them do any development. In 3 years, nobody will listen to you. So the demands of the market will humble you. Okay? A lot of people went to get radio licenses. Many of them have sold it. Because they don't understand how to make radio stations work. So once government doesn't interfere with the market, the market will punish you. Unless you have money from some place and you're just pumping it into the media without necessarily thinking about what to get from it. So you have $10 billion and you're just giving it to the media. Okay, so there must be improvement of quality, first from the journalism point, from the media houses. Otherwise, the market will punish you. You become obsolete. And because of the new gadgets we have, don't forget, now we are in an era where Google and Facebook are media companies. So GH1, EIB, your biggest competitor in the next few years is not even in Accra, because there are kids who have their phones and Google can send them news, Facebook can send them news, and they may decide that, oh, if I'm Unilever and the 17-year-old boy is on Facebook reading stories, then let me give the money to Facebook and not GH1. If we don't start thinking
and it's
about,
actually happening.
Exactly. So my point is that if we don't anticipate what's happening in the market and start thinking strategically as media owners, and we think that, oh, I just need somebody to go on air and shout and insult my political opponent, it's completely passé. So the market and the way media is headed globally is very, very serious. And if we don't upgrade ourselves to meet the demands of the market, we are going to become obsolete.
But is it even something that a lot of people are addressing their minds to? The thing about being aware of the market and the varying changes every single day. For some, yes, but for the majority, I don't think so.
But there's no industry in the world that the majority of people, you see, the elite are elite for a reason.
Yeah.
Right?
Because they think
in every profession, there are people who win Nobel Prize and there are people who just get by. Whether it's economics, it's medicine, or the challenge with media is that because it's so easy to get in and everybody can write and talk, it becomes even more serious. Everybody doesn't have to do what we are saying. Cream rises to the top, as does fish rot from the top. So if the people who are supposed to be in the lead are at the cutting edge of what must happen, they pull the rest along.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying.
Let's take a break. When we come back, I'll be talking to the two gentlemen here about citizen journalists and how that is, if it is, affecting traditional media, the competition between the two. Also, the issue of Solly, the issue of Solly and the safety of journalists. Do stay with us. This is State of Affairs.
Everybody drink our coffee, smile and have a sunshine day. Everybody do what you're doing, smile and have a sunshine day. Everybody do what you're doing, your smile will bring a sunshine day.
Drink up
The celebration, we're together, join your hands in harmony. Everybody, do what you're doing. Smile and have a sunshine day.
Everybody start every day with delicious, nutritious Cowbell coffee and have a sunshine day.
Everybody, drink our coffee. Smile and have a sunshine day. Woo!
Hisense, media sempa baby. Makasa na yetie. Say Hisense King Kong phone. Apa mo bibia. Your Hisense King Kong 1 and your Hisense King Kong 2 and your Hisense King Kong 3. Still, Hisense King Kong phone. Insurance yo insurahiase. Ensure tona se show bottom na de na mu a. Uni how enye hwe. Hisense King Kong battery check. Ne one day afe and an ebo da form to Ricaco Hisense showroom bia ne kojo King Kong 1, 2 or 3. Madam Hisense matete so mo will say who afe frey 0302 550000. Hisense, everyday prizes for everyday people.
Welcome back. This is State of Affairs in association with Cowbell Coffee. My guest tonight, Bernard Koku-Avle, host of City 97.3 FM Breakfast Show, they call it the CBS, and also Francis Kobina Aban, host of the Morning Star on 103.5 Star FM. Now, you're welcome back from the break. Now, Solly, I mean, this is a very interesting topic. Some are against it, some are for it. It's a matter of principle. Some say, yeah, the journalists are not being paid well, so it doesn't really matter if anybody gives them a 50 Ghana city envelope to, board a vehicle back to the office. Where do you stand on Solid?
I think if you send someone out to do a job, the person must be given transport to go do the job. I don't think the one who is taking the service must pay for your transport. That in itself compromises the essence of our independence as a media. It's always been an issue for a very long time. Some try and rationalize it because of the times we're in that some media companies are unable to pay their workers enough, and so they go look for this as an option. But if you expect someone to do a job, write a story devoid of influence, that must stop.
But does the solely influence the
It
journalist?
does most of the time.
Most of
the time it does. You speak to some of them and they'll tell you. And look, I've been to news conferences where the journalists will tell you, if you don't give me the money,
the story would
you
not
said I'll
come.
write the story against you, or the story wouldn't even go at all. It happens. That's the practical truth.
But that's a threat.
Well, that's the
That's
reality that we are living
blackmail.
with. Yes. Yes. So if, as I said, a media organization sends you, your newsroom, your editor tells you, look, gentlemen, go to this news conference, bring me the story. Again, it's down to what you want from that news conference. Do you want to go do a PR job for that company, or you are in to find a story that people who will be listening to the radio station or watching the news channel or reading the newspaper would want to get information out of? If the reason for that program, why you're sending that person, is not clearly defined, that's where you get this happening, truthfully.
Bernard, where do you stand on Solly?
I think that we shouldn't be having discussion at all. I mean, principles of journalism are very clear. Journalists must be independent of the subjects they cover. That's one of the principles. The other principle is that journalism's first objective is to the truth. And a journalist must be free or independent of the subjects they cover. So if you are covering somebody and you are taking money from the person, you are not independent and objective. The challenge though is that in Ghana, we don't distinguish between journalism and PR. So some people wanted to do PR for them. So they're going to give money to some people in some place, and they want you to come and tell the world that they are a very nice, fantastic corporate entity. And you're saying, okay, if you are doing it in Kumasi and you want me to go pay for it. I know TV stations which say that a lot of stories that come to the newsroom are PR type. And it's more like a sale, you are marketing.
Yes. Yeah.
So we'll bill you, pay for it, and do PR. And that's what has brought the confusion. But in terms of being given money by the person you are covering, it can never be done. So the challenge though is that in Ghana, people want to get free PR and call it media coverage.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you understand me? So we've and
Paid for assignment.
So you come to a TV station and say we are going to do something in
We are launching.
Yes, come and
a
cover
product,
it, and the person
yes.
say then you have to pay.
Commercial.
And then you say no, you are collecting solely. So let's distinguish the two.
Yeah.
If you are but you see the challenge though is that the media profession's independence is all that it has. So if you don't have your independence, you can't do your work.
So you're completely against
So
Solly.
that's why I come back to the economics. Fix the business and the way it works and pay the people properly so that they don't need to be depending on these things. So that if your business model needs your journalists to be taking money from people, it means the media also crumble because you won't have objective journalists.
Yeah.
Have you ever been influenced? Or has there been an attempt to influence?
Attempts many, but influence no.
No, I mean, we are always influenced. You see, let's be honest, influence is in many ways. Somebody can influence you to do a story just because of your relationship with them.
Yeah.
And it's one of the struggles.
No, I mean,
have.
has anybody attempted to give you money?
I'm coming.
Yeah.
So I asked a very senior journalist the last time, how are you able to be so dead stone factual? Even though I see you in dinner parties with these political people, they come to your children's outdooring, they're supposed to be your friends. And he said, well, if they think they are my friends, it's their own problem. But I need a source to cultivate. Right? So he's saying that your commitment is to getting your news out for people. If it requires me coming for your outdooring, I'll come. Challenge is that here is not very easy because you want to befriend people. And you know, in this profession, the more prominent you get, the more friends you have.
Yeah.
Of course.
So, or so-called friends. So you're a journalist and you are a friend to a member of parliament from some place. You go to his house, you eat his food and stuff. Now, if there's a story about him, how can you be independent? And that's the struggle I have. Because as we rise in the profession, we develop relationships. And my struggle is to manage a relationship in a way that it doesn't take away from my independence of doing my work. And it's very difficult, I have to admit to you, because some people begin to consider you a friend, quote unquote.
Of course.
But for people to believe you, they must know that you are independent, right? And how can I independently cover you if you are my friend? Do you get me? So it's a challenge of professionalism which we have to face consistently. And if we don't manage those relationships well and keep reminding ourselves that what makes us relevant is our credibility with the public, our relationships with duty bearers, influential business people, special interest, political people is going to influence the way we do our work. And I think that media houses also need to protect their leading staff members. So if you have a talented journalist, who's very prominent, you need to know, help them manage because you see, Anaba, you can get an interview with a former president because they like you and they think you are smart. But in getting that interview, what do you have to give? Nobody should pretend that no media house in the world doesn't sacrifice anything from getting a story. Yeah. Even if you are doing a war coverage, if you go to Syria and you want to cover the Syrian war and you are with the rebels, you have to make a certain compromise. People will bring, so it's a constant negotiation, but the lines must be clearly drawn. Yeah. And we should know that you can't have a financial relationship with somebody you cover.
Of course.
You hear me? That's what the media owners and the leaders should help do, so that the journalists who are in their media houses can learn from that. Otherwise, they are going to always be 50-50 with the truth, and it's not going to help them.
All right. We'll take a last break and invite our third guest.
Madam, your insurance has expired.
Hey, who, me? And what's today's date? Oh, I haven't seen it.
Buying things hard though, Charlie. My wife is in labor with 2 months as we speak now. My first child also has malaria. I need some loan, cry. Can you lend me some small money? I'll pay back in 3 months.
Oh, insurance. This is peanuts. No problem, cry, my guy.
Hey, officer! You look like Marco Pao. I from mountains.
Don't you just love my job? Guys, enough of the excuses. Now, insurance is free thanks to Unibank.
Open a Unibank Motor Insurance Savers account to get a free third-party motor insurance. Spend your extra cash on other things that matter to you. Visit any Unibank branch to get started. Unibank Motor Insurance. Insure for free. Free dear, yeah. Unibank. Caring for you.
We unite. We defy. We hope. We dream. We play. We are fire in our hearts.
Celebrate 60 years of independence with a Guinness or Sajafo. Grab a bottle and look under the ground for a chance to win one of over 1 million bottles. Taste the celebration with Guinness.
Right, you're welcome back. This is State of Affairs and it's brought to you by Cowbell Coffee. Ifya Pokuya, aka Vim Lady from Multimedia, has just joined us as well. It feels good to see you. Finally, there is a balance.
You see? It's 2-2 now.
2-2 now. Now, Ifya, I mean, they've talked a lot about media ownership, how free the media in Ghana is. I want to come to you about women in media. I mean, let's have a conversation about that. The last time, there was a lady who was doing research on morning shows in Ghana, and she called me and asked me a very funny but interesting question that how come we don't have women hosting morning shows on radio? It is always dominated by the men. Yeah. Your thoughts on that?
I think that's absolutely timely. I mean, I had a plan in my head. And I was thinking that one day that's the kind of programming I would do on a radio station. All-female morning show, fantastic discussion coming from women perspective. And I thought that would give it a breath of fresh air. Because you have, even when the women on the panel, like Benan's show, you have Nanama on it, but she's just the lone voice there. So sometimes you can see that the perspective that you want is not there, you know. It's not that there are 2 men on it, sometimes even 3. Yeah. There's Akoto, there's Bena, there's Richard.
Yes,
and she's a very laid back. She's a little, you know, extrovert, but she's a little laid back. So when the guys clash, then she's silent. You know, I've always wanted to do a programming like that. So I think, yes, it's timely. This is the time we need that. It would be fantastic to have, even the politicians. Yeah. When it comes to morning discussion, a lot of it is dominated by the male politicians. And oftentimes the women are even scared. Once you approach them and you want to invite them into a conversation, they're like, oh no. So they're only comfortable when it comes to Women's Day discussion. Yes. And I think that we are worth more than more than that. We are more intelligent than that. We should put ourselves forward. But that will also require capacity building and training of some sort.
We've been talking about
to make it more
here.
comfortable for the women to fit into the system. Because over the years, it's been dominated by men. So if you want them to step into the shoes, you need to build them and build their confidence.
We're getting more women in the media now. I dare say that we are probably getting a balance.
But the problem is that the women are not in the front line in the media. That's the problem. You have women who are reporters, who are sent on beats, and an editor has to take the final decision. What we want is to see women in programming, women in editors, editorial positions who can make the call to push a woman on the set. Nanaba, somebody wants to take your set, I want Nanaba to be there. And there's advantages. I mean, we all know that men drift more to television when there's a woman who is an anchor. You know, there's the attraction of the sexes. You can't take that away. But that's not to belittle.
But does that also bring up the issue of objectification?
That also brings up. But you see, there's nothing wrong with, like Bernard said earlier, making money. There's a marketing value to what we do.
Okay.
There's a marketing value to what we do. So why not exploit it? I mean, we're not doing it negatively. These are women who are professionals, who are doing their work professionally in the front line. I'm just saying that we should stop putting women in the background, producers, and put them on screen, editorial position.
When there's a story at Agboblochi, they rather send male reporters,
you know,
and not female reporters.
And a woman can do that story and do it well. I, as a political journalist, I used to be drifted towards adrenaline. I like reports that will give me adrenaline rush. I don't want to be press conferences. What am I using that for? I want to be at Agboblochi. I want to be at Odododio. I want to be, and there's a fire. Everybody's running, and you are in jeans, and you are on the front line with the men.
Thank you.
And you can go home tired, but you feel fulfilled. You know you've done something. That's the kind of reporting I want women to do.
I agree with it. What I can add is, you know, funny thing, I was in a school last month to talk to people who wanted to do journalism. It was a career day. In the class, only about 3 boys. They were all girls. And I said, wow, all these young ladies want to be journalists. And yet, by the time they get to my age, a lot of them drop off. It's because we don't, you see, with the leadership in the media, we don't present them, as she's saying. If you let people know that this is possible, so sometimes you must engineer it. So for example, in certain spaces, put a black person on television for a black kid to know that a black person can host it. So put the woman there, let them know that she belongs in the space. And that's the part of the leadership she's talking about. I completely agree with her. Because once they start seeing Nanaba, I can be like her. But if all they see is Francis and Bernard, she thinks she doesn't have to do that. So, and we here are rising and becoming, we are in editorial positions, we are management positions. We need to be more patient with some of the female journalists, because being a female journalist is not easy. At all. It's more difficult and challenging. So, I mean, we try, it's not very, sometimes we want them to be hard, so we send them there. And some of our girls are now very tough. And they do it and much and even do better than the men.
Of course.
But it's the leadership and how strategic you are. Otherwise, you're just going to wipe them off. They get tired and they say, you know what?
That's why I'm thinking that if you have more women in editorial and programming position, they will be better placed to understand them. Sometimes there are a few of them men who
you know what's
understand.
funny? Some people will tell you that it doesn't really depend on whether the editor is a woman or a man.
It's true.
More on how enlightened the person who's leading you is.
Exactly.
Because some people say, oh, the person she feels that because she's a woman, she wants to be hard, so you don't think she's weak.
Okay.
But if you have a man who understands,
people tend to do that to build. I did that when I was a young journalist, to build a wall around
yourself.
Because you see, you come from a system, a tradition where women are underestimated for far too long. So you want to go the extra mile.
So you are a bit harder.
You are a bit. You are harder.
The fear is too hard.
Yes.
She's too wicked.
AKA Vim Lady.
You know, for instance, my program I do in the evening. There are men who are very hard on radio. Nobody gives them labeling.
But when you do
I am hard, and then they give you a labeling. Oh, she doesn't respect. She's this. She's a woman. She's too loud. Why are you a woman and you are loud? You know, it's like the society has a certain kind of, you know, lifestyle, certain kind of behavior you have to fit
look,
in.
I can say something on my show.
Like,
nobody will insult me. When Anama says it, people are angry that
That's true.
the girl doesn't respect all those things. And the way they refer to it, we're in a very patriarchal society. And people don't expect women to do certain things. But you know, development comes by fighting against stereotypes. That's what brings development. So we have to keep fighting.
But you see, I don't think we just have to keep fighting. Yes, we have to keep fighting, but I think that we have to build for ourselves some kind of systems that will support the few women who are out there. You know, like Nanaba has fought a lot of battles to get here. It's taking her on her own.
It's cost her a
and
lot.
Sometimes
Yeah.
her family
Yes.
to come this far. I think that if we have some kind of system, that's why sometimes I'm a little disappointed in the National Media Commission, GJ Media Foundation, and all these groups, and sometimes even our bosses, the media owners. What kind of support systems are we giving to our young people, our young women who have mastered the courage and determined, persevere to get to that point? When they say that you've done this, oh, you did this story, and sometimes they even cook stories just to get you down. Oh, you are dating this, you are dating that, just to give you a bad name and just to shut you up. And how do you get that kind of emotional support system
from the leadership
from
of
the
company?
leadership, from the nation, from the other women's groups, so that you say that yes, this is what I'm facing, but I'm determined to get past it.
All right, now let's move on to the issue of citizen journalism and the traditional media. I saw a story a couple of months ago about how threatened the traditional media is, and I was wondering which threat, because now you have the traditional media on social media, and they're taking advantage of that platform. But how do you feel? Because it comes with the issue of fake news here.
Then what I'll easily tend to speak about would be speed accuracy against information. So the difference I always see between the traditional media and the citizen journalist is the citizen journalist giving you information based on what he knows. You as the traditional media, you have your own set of ethics, what you do in processing news, turning information into news, and what you churn out. But I think it's more to do with us meeting the demands of the people. If citizen journalists are bringing out information, your job is to put a gloss of one, credibility, and also the packaging can be different, so that for anyone who will need a news story, they'll take the news from you, they'll take the information from the citizen journalist, and then be able to make his or her own decision at the end of the day. For me, I think there's no threat. Both of us can work in harmony. Two different products being produced. Buy what you want.
Is it happening? I mean,
I see the threat. I see the threat partly because the traditional media has been very uncreative over the years. We've been too comfortable, a little lazy on the job, because we were controlling the space all this while. And just all of a sudden, social media comes up, there's citizen journalism. Before your reporter gets there, there's somebody who is there who's already on Facebook Live, who is tweeting, who is on Instagram Live, they're doing everything. So the challenge for us, and this is what I think that people are perceiving as threat, is that we have to be more creative. How do we get our people in every nook and cranny, every spot, every corner, to get us real-time information? That's a challenge on us, traditional media. In other advanced democracies like in the US, in America, this is very clear. But stations like, companies like CNN and BBC have been very, very creative. So the onus is on us, traditional media, to be creative. Like Francis said, yes, there's going to be a clear distinction between accuracy and speed. So yes, fake media is everywhere, but those who crave for accuracy, those who crave for proper ethics of journalism, they're going to come to us. So the challenge, the onus is on us. What are we doing for the public, and how are we doing it for the public, so that the public will come to us? Unfortunately, we have a society that's a little bit gullible. So people are not everybody is able to make that kind of distinction. So they follow everything. So there's an accident. You remember the PV of Being case, and pictures of his corpse flying everywhere, and people are drifting towards it. But I think that eventually we'll find an equilibrium where people will discern between the right information, the accurate information, and what is fake news. I think that they will get it.
Bernard, do you see a threat?
No, I think it's an opportunity, because I think that, so from the example she gave, there are so many people who have cameras who want to do stuff. So what you need to do is to create a system that can make use of that, right? So during the election, we had people who were covering for us who were not even journalists. They just had a phone and they were sending pictures. So it's a great opportunity. So it could be a threat or an opportunity, depending on how you look at it. I think it's a great opportunity for us. I also think that we shouldn't be too concerned that citizen journalists will take over our job. Because as Francis said, journalism is a discipline of verification. If I pick your WhatsApp phone, I'm sure every day you get about 5 messages. Is this true?
Oh, broadcast.
Can you confirm this?
Yes.
Why don't they, why is it that when they get it, they don't say,
they come to you?
Because they need verification. So they come to Nana, they come to you because you are institution, you have credibility, you are traceable. So our job is to gain more credibility by doing the right thing and deploying these people to give us the information, because we can't be everywhere. I can't train. We have 275 constituencies. Am I going to get 275 constituency reporters. I don't have the resources. So create a system that can bring all those things together and then use it to move the thing to the next level. That's what I would say.
And also, there's a business opportunity here, like Bernard is saying, that for us as media people, I think we can create a platform of young, hungry, determined people who are looking for jobs. Give them a few months of training and put them out there in the field. Yeah. And years ago, I wanted to do that with a couple of young people I trained. You put them out there in the field. They become your ears on the ground. And that's what they do for you. So they get you the information, the raw information, and your job will be to verify it. But you have the raw information. That's gold.
Okay, we've got just 1 minute to go, but I want to pick your thoughts on the RTI before we wrap up.
Oh, I think it's long overdue. It's long overdue. But I still have issues with some issues in the RTI. I think that is not perfect. Yeah. So just to make political capital out of it, we're going to pass it, for me, it doesn't tickle me. Let's deal with the issues. For instance, paying for information. Leaving there's wide discretion that government has, the ministries, departments, and agencies have, whether to give you the information or not, and the discretion of relying on public policy to deny you particular information. I think that's worrisome. We should deal with that issue before we go ahead and pass it. Just passing the RTI, for me, is not. The fact that you're even paying to access the information, it should be online, available to all. You should be able to sit in the studio, Google it or something, and get that information.
But again, there have been some who said that, let's get it in first. If there are needs for modification,
then you are met.
Like we do for others, then modifications.
We do so. Even before we went, the bill came out, we knew that there was a need for modification in areas. We should modify it.
Laws always evolve, don't they?
Yes, but we should modify it if the opportunity exists now.
Vim lady.
Yeah.
Vim lady, I know. Thank you very much. Bernard Koku-Avle is the host of the City Breakfast Show on 97.3 City FM. Ifya Pokia is on Adum 106.3 FM, member of the multimedia group, and also Francis Kobna Aban. Did I add Vim lady to your name?
It's Kobna.
Yeah, he's Kobna.
Oh, you didn't know if
I didn't know. I didn't know.
Goodness.
All right, Francis Aban is the host of the Morning Star, Star FM, of course, 103.5 FM, a member of the EIB network. Thank you so much for your time. Okay. I think we should probably be saying Happy World Press Freedom Day.
Yeah, we should.
Oh, you can have one. You can have one.
You don't have one. What a shame.
We can have it. We can have it.
All right, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for watching. The show was brought to you by Cowbell Coffee. I'm Nana Abanamwa. Have a good night.
Of Affairs was proudly brought to you by Cowbell Coffee. Tales from the Powder Room is brought to you by Malta Guinness, Vodafone, and Lily Rice.
Tasty food, happy family.
and welcome to a very special episode of Tales from the Powder Room, your #1 girl talk show. My name is AJ Sapon. But today we're not coming to you live from the GH1 studios. No, we're doing it a little different because we're coming from to you live from the Volta Hall of the University of Ghana, Legon. Because tonight we're doing it a little different. We're bringing Tales from the Powder Room a little closer to our viewers. And why not start at our girl hall, which is having their hall week, by the way, this week. So we decided to come in here and actually get the opportunity to hear stories from our ladies right here in the Volta Hall. Tonight is going to be very interesting because the ladies will be telling us, and there'll be no letter, by the way, but I do have an inspirational panel of ladies and a gentleman that'll be speaking to us and giving their side of some of the deals, the things that some of our ladies right here in the hall may be going through. But it's going to be very exciting, and trust me, you would love to be a part of it tonight. It is Tales from the Powder Room. Welcome.
This year, GH1 celebrates our amazing mothers.
And you are tuned in to Tales from the Powder Room, coming to you live from the Volta Hall of the University of Ghana campus, Legon. Tales is brought to you by Malta Guinness. Let's go GH. And they're saying that if you can catch any of the motivators all around, either on the streets, in the bus stops, in the marketplace, wherever you are on the go, you can get the opportunity to be refreshed instantly and for free by the motivators. Malta Guinness is saying thank you to our cherished consumers and all those that love the brand for